Ellie and welcome back to Arcadia, my self-converted Toyota Hiace, which I'm currently traveling Australia's east coast in, and today I want to talk about how to stay cool when living in a van. This was one of my biggest concerns before I started van life, because I started in the peak of the Australian summer, so I was very concerned, but I survived and it is winter now. That's why I'm wearing a jacket. But for a lot of you people watching this, you are currently in summer, so I wanted to share my tips for how to stay cool when living in a van. I'm Ellie Wilder and you're watching Wilder in Motion. A van is a big metal box that can very easily turn into an oven if you don't have a plan in place. So starting at the very beginning in the process of buying/converting your van, I cannot emphasize enough how much you want the minimum amount of windows possible. A lot of campers, especially Hiace models, the specific campers have windows going the entire way around, and I very nearly bought one that had windows going completely on both sides, and then there was another one where this whole wall was windows, but in the end I bought a van that had no windows on the side in the cargo area, and I just installed this one back here to help with some airflow, which I'll talk about later. But minimizing the number of windows, because an oven is one thing but a greenhouse is another, and you will just absolutely bake in the windows with the sun coming through, and in winter it will be very cold because windows are the weakest point when it comes to insulation. Now, speaking of insulation, certainly your insulation is only as strong as its weakest link, but having said that, it's better to have some than none at all, especially on the roof where the sun's going to be hitting. So I just have a little layer of foam insulation, which isn't much, but it makes a big difference between touching and getting burning hot metal or just getting the tepid air temperature feeling of that foam. And foam is the most popular choice, so I'd certainly recommend making sure you've got some kind of insulation on the ceiling, so it's not just the bare metal. Next, airflow. Airflow is your best friend. When it's still and hot, it is unbearable, but once you get a little bit of a breeze, it suddenly becomes a bit more manageable. Now, you'll be able to put down your front windows, but this can be a little bit of a security risk because people can just reach in and unlock the van. Plus, this is going to be a problem if you can't access the cab from your rear cargo area. And so that's why I went to the effort of getting this window, which I installed just there, and I made sure I tracked down one that had an opening in it so I could have airflow in the back of the van, and I can easily open and close it and have it open in the evenings as well. It's also on the street side, or like the footpath side in Australia, so it's not going to have like cars driving past it, so that's why I installed it on that side. You can of course open the door as well, especially if you have a sliding door, but obviously this is a lot more obvious and a lot less stealth than just having a little sliding window. To help get a cross breeze, a fan vent is totally essential as well. Plus, this is something that you can have open all day and all night and not have to worry about any kind of security thing. Having a fan in there too means you can create your own airflow even if it's really still. I have the Max fan, which I cannot rave about enough. It's so good being able to intake as well as extract. Plus, having the rain dome means I can leave it open all day, have a little bit of air getting in the van, but not worry if a tropical storm unexpectedly comes through. Everything stays dry. This one is a little more expensive, but totally worth it, and I am always opening and closing it. I use it every single day, and it really is the main way that I'm able to adjust the temperature in the van. On the topic of windows, keeping things very basic, investing in a couple of reflectors to bounce back the light on the windows that you have is a tried and true method that you probably use in your current vehicle now anyway. I would recommend having these for every single window. You can just buy a couple and cut them out to fit the window, and keeping these up even during the day, just making sure that the sun is not shining directly in and baking everything inside. I would also recommend having a curtain between the cab and your cargo area. This is especially helpful if you have a bit of a thicker curtain, because it is a big temperature difference when the sun is shining on the windscreen. Even with these up, once I open that curtain, it feels like it's risen by 10 degrees, so I'm really glad that I have that separation between the two. Now, one that's slightly obvious, albeit only in times of desperation, is to park in the shade. I've never had to do this because I have solar, so I don't want to. I want to take advantage of that sun, but also all of these other things that I've done have meant that it's been cool enough that I haven't had to do that. But if you're absolutely desperate, yes, parking in the shade will make things cooler, obviously. Next up, pretty obvious, but don't be in the van during the heat of the day. Go out, organize an activity outside. You'll be in the wind, or you can be in a shopping center aircon. Just make sure that you leave your fan vent open so that you do get some level of airflow. And if you've got solar, you can have the fan on as well, making sure you're extracting that hot air so it's not getting super hot, so when you return, it is not boiling. And another one that can be handy to have is a little 12-volt fan. It's no replacement for an air vent since you will just be pushing hot air around the place, but sometimes you just need a breeze to break things up. So something like that, especially if you're trying to sleep at night, can be really handy. Or the budget alternative, just something like this, a little handheld fan. That way you can create a strong breeze exactly where you need it to be. So those are my tried and tested methods of how I stayed cool in my van in the Australian summer. I didn't have any moments where it was unbearable and I had to leave. It certainly got hot, but I didn't have any sleepless nights, which is more than I can say about my actual house in Sydney, which I don't have aircon in, and I've actually found it more uncomfortable there. So this has certainly worked for me, so I definitely recommend all of these things. But do let me know if you've got any more tips in the comment section below. If you want to see more of my van life trip, then I'll link my previous videos in the description below. Otherwise, to join the journey with new videos every single Saturday, then be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.